Hello everyone, welcome to GoTarryn TV. I'm Taryn, the traveling trainer with GoTarryn Personal Training here in the greater Atlanta area, about to welcome an awesome returning guest, also here in Atlanta, Georgia, Ms. Elsie Trawick. Now before Elsie comes on here, I'd like to ask everyone out there if you please be so kind as to like this video, leave us a comment, and share it with all of your friends and family out there. Now, I'm excited because today's topic is going to be quite interesting. We have brought Elsie back onto today's video because we wanted to talk to her and ask her specific questions relating to you. That's right, your doctor and your medical needs. In other words, how do you find the right doctor, and what specialists do you recommend in terms of how do you know which ones to get referred to? And in addition to that, when you see your doctors and after they've seen you and they're stumped and puzzled and they say, well, I don't know what's wrong with you, and what do you do from there? Where do you go? Well, she's going to help us with that in addition to all of her fine wellness, nutritional topics and research that she's brought here today on today's video blog. So again, stay tuned because you're in for a treat. When we come back, we're going to have Elsie Trawick. And remember, with GoTarryn Personal Training, it's your time, it's your investment, it's your life. We'll see you shortly. Welcome back, everybody, and as you can see side by side, once again, we are joined by Elsie Trawick here in Atlanta, Georgia as well. Elsie, how are you doing out there today?
Hey, I'm fine. How are you today?
Very good, thanks. Appreciate you coming out again, as always, and we're so excited to have you back. And before we were recording today, Elsie, we were talking a little bit about that movie, Brain on Fire. We'll talk a little bit about that. And so, I think today's topic mostly, I know that you've got some good stats for us and some research that you've drawn upon. And we were talking briefly about kind of today's episode geared towards, we won't single out also just women, but including men. But when people go to the doctor and they have questions about how do I find the right doctor, or they're not getting the right help that they need, and things of that nature. And then the most frustrating thing, the doctor can't diagnose what exactly is wrong with them in a lot of cases. And I think I mentioned I have several clients right now who are really going through some struggles with that. So that's why I wanted to reach out, and I thought this would make for a perfect episode today. So I'll let you go ahead and have the floor first. I know that's a fully loaded kind of broad general topic, but where can we start from there, Elsie? What has your research shown, and what's your thoughts on that, I guess, just to start us off?
Okay, I did a little research last night, and I know from my own, as you know, my story of how the medical profession let me down personally with my situation. I ended up at a holistic healer practitioner and got a leg up and got on my journey back to health through the holistic. Now I'm with a very good gastroenterologist who we're working, but I still combine alternative therapies with medical therapies because I do believe in both. There is a right place for everything. The one thing I've learned from my journey is that if you're chronically not feeling good, get specific on your, hold on just a minute. Get specific on what your symptoms are. Really take notes about what is going on with your body. Do you have brain fog? Do you have stomach upset? And I'm going to talk about those issues because those were my issues. But whatever your issues are, start taking notes. If it's recurrent, start keeping a little journal. Just buy the 5 and 10 store, just buy a little notebook and start writing everything down. Because your doctor, also, even if you go to a great doctor, they're only as good as what you tell them. So it is really important that we as citizens understand that we are responsible for our health. That's number one. We are responsible for making sure that we stay healthy by eating a healthy diet, exercising, and when something starts up, that we try to understand it, get as much information about it, so that when we do go to a doctor or a specialist, we have information to provide them. Because the more information we provide, the better off the doctor is in trying to figure out what's wrong with us.
Good point.
So, because they call it the science of medicine for a reason. Mm-hmm. It is ever evolving, it's ever changing. New therapies, new technologies, new medicines are on the market daily. Mm-hmm. But it's up to us to really be our own best friend in this and try to fill in a lot of the information for the doctors. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for a new doctor, the best thing to do is talk to your friends and family. Do they have a doctor that you like? Let me backtrack for just a minute. First, identify what kind of doctor are you looking for? Are you looking for a primary physician, mm-hmm. or are you looking for a specialist? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you've got a good primary physician that you trust and you're looking for a specialist, talk to your primary physician. Mm-hmm. Your doctors need to be talking together. That you need to have a whole picture of what you're going through. So if something's come up and you've got to have some kind of special procedure or surgical procedure or something like that, and you really like your primary physician, ask them for recommendations. The second thing is ask your friends and family mm-hmm. for recommendations if you're looking for a specialist. If you're looking for a primary care physician and you're changing for whatever reason, or you don't have one and you realize you need one, talk to friends and family first and see if they like their doctor. Find someone who likes their doctor. Then before you go on, you at least have a personal you have an arm's reach, mm-hmm. touch to that doctor. You know someone who goes to them. You have something in common. The next thing is, and once you get a list of doctors, and if you don't, and also the other thing that's critical in this is go to your insurance company. Mm-hmm. Find out who's in network. Mm-hmm. They have a service. Every medical insurance company does this. They have a service where if you tell them what you're looking for, they will email you a list of doctors within more than 10 miles away from my home. Oh. And here in the city of Atlanta, that's very easy. But if you're outside in a more rural setting, it can be more difficult, especially if you live out in the country and maybe you have 3 towns that you could go to and try to find a doctor. So friends and family first. Mm-hmm. Go to your insurance company, get lists of who's in your network and what you're looking for. Then you start to personalize it. Mm-hmm. Do you have a preference for a man or a woman? Do you want to go to a male doctor or a woman doctor? Statistically, more women will search out and try to find a woman doctor or a female doctor before they will a male. Men, the research shows that they just want a good doctor. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They don't really have a preference. Mm-hmm. Then the next thing is you go to Google. You Google the information you've got. Look at the doctor's website. Mm-hmm. Does the website provide you with information? Is it user-friendly? Mm-hmm. Does it have information up on there? Does it show does it show a list of all their services? Does it have a patient portal where you can download all the forms to fill them out in advance before you go to make an appointment? Do the pictures look warm and welcoming? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What does the website look like? And then read the reviews. Look at the reviews on the website. That will give you a good clue. If they're all stellar, and we all have a little bit of skepticism built into us when we're looking for something. And when I'm looking at the websites, I'm looking for red flags. Uh-huh. Typically, you'll be able to tell the difference between just a disgruntled patient who had a bad experience, but really and truly, it looks like it's 1 in a million. Whereas you will see if there are red flags about this practice, you'll see a pattern displayed and built up. A lot of people will have the same criticisms, and then you can just check them off your list.
Yeah.
Other things, it's about when you're looking at their website, you want to look at what it says about their hospital affiliations. Are they affiliated with a hospital of your choice? Where are their offices? Do they have several locations for you to select where you want to go to the practice? What's the educational background of the doctors and the nurse practitioners, or nurse practitioner or physician's assistant? Because most offices will you can have a choice between seeing the doctor, a nurse practitioner, or a PA, physician assistant. Do they have, are they specialized? Do they specialize in something? Like you may be looking for an ear, nose, and throat doctor, but they also do cosmetic surgery. That's very common. Ear, nose, and throat doctor, that has an allergy clinic. That's very common too. Languages spoken. Do you need help with a second language if English is not your primary language? Years in practice. And do you see, if it's an older doctor, are they bringing in some younger doctors? Or is the practice a tremendous practice, or is it a smaller practice? These things will, go into more of what you're personally looking for. But they're considerations. And then the gender of the doctors and the nurses and the nurse practitioners and the physician's assistants, if you're looking for a specific gender. And then you can go, once you've done all of that, you can actually go to, and at the end I've got a list of where to go for doctor's information. You can check out their boards, make sure they're board certified. You can go to the AMA, American Medical Association. There are several other websites where you can actually check up on their credentials if you so desire. Wow. The next thing to consider is, if you're going in, is you can call and ask to speak to someone in the office because you're trying to see if this is a good fit for you. You can ask to speak to the office manager. You can ask to speak to one of the nurses. You can ask and set a phone call up with a doctor. And, you have the right to interview them. This is about your health. You do have that right and that possibility. Before you make an appointment, you want to gather all your records. If you've got several issues and you're on several prescription medications, you want to make sure you've got your paperwork. You've got the name of your current doctor if you're changing, or if you're going to a specialist, the name and address and phone number of your internist. You want to have a list of all the medications, or physically take them in with you when you go to the appointment. You want to make sure you've got a list of any allergies, medical and food allergies. So that you've got that information with you. You want to make sure you've got your insurance card and a valid ID, so that, because they will require that when you go. So get yourself prepared. When I went to see my new gastroenterologist, I did that. I took the supplements I was on, and I had them in a brown paper bag. And then I had the names of my previous doctors, my two previous gastroenterologists. I had the information about my previous endoscopy and colonoscopy. I had the information about my allergies. I had printed out the last 2 years of letters from where I had gotten my physicals. So I had substantial information, so that when I was there, it was very easy for me to sign the forms for this new doctor to request the previous medical records from my two previous gastroenterologists.
Excellent.
So you've got some background work to take. And if I keep a file on all my medical. Every time I do something medical, it's not by doctor. It is by just like a 2018 medical information. So whenever I go and the information, I just lob it over in that file. So it's very easy for me to just pick up that file and trot myself to the new doctor's office. That would be a good way. If you're looking for a specialist, and you only need certain aspects of it, create a new file for that specialist. Like mine might be gastroenterology. So I have all those things related. But really and truly, if you do get a physical every year and you go to your internist, that information from your physical needs to go with you to any specialist you go to see. Because they need to know your general health. They need to know if there are any red flags popping up there.
Yeah.
So you've done all your homework. You've Googled the person. You've checked them out. You've talked to friends and family. You've gone to the appointment, and you've taken your list of medications. You've got all your information. You're all there. You're sitting there in the doctor's office. So now you have another list of things to think about and do when you're in there. Is the staff courteous? Are they respectful? Is their waiting room clean and neat? Do they have magazines? Is there something for you to do? These are some questions you need to ask for you. Is the staff courteous to you? Do they respect you? You are a patient. They can't do business without patience. Cleanliness of the office. Is it a place that is comfortable for you to sit and wait? Because sometimes, not any fault of the doctor, sometimes they get backed up because a patient may be having an issue or an emergency comes up. How do they handle your medical records? Are they electronic, hard copy? Do they ask you some questions? Do they have the right forms for you to fill out to have records switched about? Do they help through that process? And timeliness. Do they respect your time? I have to tell you, when I was first diagnosed with acid reflux, I was with an ear, nose, and throat doctor who chronically, I either had to wait 30 or 40 minutes in the waiting room, and then once I got in the exam room, respectful of my time.
Wow.
And I didn't like that. So ultimately, I loved the allergist, so I finished up my allergy shots, and then I switched. Because every time I had to see him, I had an hour to an hour and a half wait before I even saw him.
Wow.
That's not nice.
No.
The other thing is, do you click with this doctor? Do you like them? Do you have a rapport with them? Do they listen to you? When you talk about your situation, your ailments, or what's going on with you if you're there for a non-routine visit, do they ask questions that are pertinent, relevant? Do they show an interest? Do they listen to you? Do they make eye contact with you? Do they make you feel comfortable? When you ask for alternatives, do they provide them? Can you have a conversation with them? Are they open? When you ask for something like, especially with allergies and ENT and stuff like that, when you talk about alternative therapies, do they shut down or are they open to it? So that's critical, because for me, I'm big on alternative. I'd rather go to an alternative practitioner before I go to a medical practitioner.
Certainly.
Sometimes you just can't do that though, and it does. Is there some flexibility with making appointments, or are they very rigid? Let's see. But the biggest thing is, do you listen to your gut? Do you feel comfortable talking not only to the doctor, but to their staff? Because you have to share intimate information with them. If you I called my gastroenterologist because I was having, I just gotten back from Europe, and I was having some problems, and the nurse was asking me what was going on. I had to tell her, and they got me an appointment that day. So, you've got to be able to be open and spill the beans to the staff and the doctor. Don't hold back. And if you do, then you've got a problem. Also, are you, that's the biggest thing for me is what does your gut say? And it's about the whole practice from the waiting, from calling, talking to them, making the appointment, going in, sitting in the waiting room, then getting in, because typically the doctor doesn't greet you first. One of his staff greets you and gets your vital statistics, asks you questions about why you're there, and then the doctor will come in. So it's a process, and you need to feel comfortable with every part of that process.
Certainly.
So that's my list of how to hire a doctor.
Oh, that's
and
excellent.
There are several places to go. As I said earlier, there's several places to go where you can recommend. If you don't, if you're not finding, if you don't have friends and family that you can ask, say you've moved to a new town or going to a new town, and so nobody's there that you're trying to find, like some good friends of mine retired and they moved to Asheville, and she set out on a quest to find a new doctor, new dentist, new all of this, and didn't know anybody. For doctors, medical doctors, you can go to the AMA Doctor Finder. There's angieslist.com, Castle Colony, Connolly, Connolly, and that's CASTLE, They have a website that gives doctor information. Healthgrades, and that's HEALTHGRADES.com. National Committee for Quarterly Assurance, Physician Compare. So there's a whole list. And actually, Taryn, I'll type this up and send it to you so that you could maybe, if somebody asks, they could get that information.
That'd be great, Elsie. Yeah.
So there are a lot of places. U.S. News and World Report has a doctor finder where they have compile information on doctors. And that's where I got a lot of my information today was U.S. News and World Report, Consumer Reports, and some other articles that I read to pull the information about giving you the steps to find a practitioner. Now, if you're looking for an alternative practitioner, an alternative medical practitioner, typically, like in Atlanta, if you go into Whole Foods and some other places, you will see there are alternative magazines. They will have a list of your alternative practices. Also, you can just Google the practice you're looking for. Like if you want acupuncture, you can say acupuncture Atlanta, GA, and you can pull up the various practices. Again, ask friends and family if they're looking, because typically your friends and your family can be trusted and relied on to provide a good name. But again, it's up to you to find the right fit of practitioner, because we're all different and we all have different personality types. And especially when when we don't feel good, some of us may want to be snuggled and cuddled, where others, we want to go in, they want to get their service, and they want to leave so they can go home. So we're all different. So remember that when you're getting recommendations from friends and family. But again, Google them, look at what their website says, look at what the information says, read the reviews. That's really important.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent, Elsie.
If you're dealing with something and your doctor is not listening to you, then you do need to change doctors. And I had that happen to me very early on. I, as you know my story, I went to Europe, had a fabulous trip, came home, had salmonella. The salmonella was diagnosed, but the parasite wasn't diagnosed for 5 years. Kept going to my doctor saying something is not right. Something is not right. She did nothing. Finally, I ended up with a holistic practitioner that I found out about through the woman who owns the Pilates studio I go to, she sent me to her holistic practitioner, put me on the road back to health.
And that's Catherine Kerrigan too, isn't it?
Yes, Catherine Kerrigan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really important. It shouldn't have taken me 5 years, but I kept thinking they'll figure it out, and they never did. And again, they put it back on me saying, well, you know, gosh, we don't know what's wrong. And it's like, well, you're the doctor. Ask me questions.
That's frustrating.
And that's where I should have walked away, or now knowing what I know, I would have left immediately, gone to Catherine, and not the 5 years, and probably would have been, and wouldn't have had a lot of problems. But hey, life didn't happen that way for me.
Wow.
If I can help one person avoid that, I'll be glad to. So it is critical. If your doctor is not listening to you, if your doctor doesn't believe that you've got symptoms, you've got distress in your body, but they're like, oh, you know, maybe it's your nerves, maybe it's this. Find another doctor. Find another doctor. There are lots of doctors out there that are good, and they are qualified, and they know what they're doing. And again, also be as helpful as you can to your doctor. If you're starting to have problems, write the information down. Note. And you and I were talking earlier about sometimes the problem with a person has a gluten sensitivity. They don't know it.
Yeah, right.
And they diagnose as celiac from reading, yet when they go to the doctor does the blood test, and they're not celiac. Well, you know, the best way for them to figure out is to go off gluten. Go just themselves, go on a gluten-free diet. If they get relief, they know that gluten is a trigger.
Interesting.
And more doctors do realize that non-celiac gluten sensitivity is a true illness in and of itself.
I think that's what's going on with a lot of the clients I was referencing that are having these issues. Is there a reason, Elsie, why most of the people I'm hearing from are females? Or is it just coincidental?
I think it could be just coincidental.
Okay.
Also, I am ever the reader, and I've got Mark Hyman's new book, and I've also got another book, Eating on the Wild Side, and I'm reading the Paleo Code now. And what I am learning from all of that is, I think the uptick, and I think all these doctors agree with me, or I should say I agree with them, the uptick in sensitivities to gluten and other dairy, soy, etc., is the GMO, the genetically modified problems, and the chemicals we've got in our food, but also the hybridization goes hand in hand with the genetically modified. The wheat that is grown now has more gluten in it than wheat grown 50 years ago.
Good point.
It's really interesting how the science of when things are going through the process, and geneticists are working with this to figure out how we can feed our ever-growing population. They're doing all these genetic studies. They're creating these new seeds, but no one is looking at or thinking about the effects of the changes they're doing to the plant on human consumption.
Very interesting. Wow.
And it's like corn. Corn today is super sweet. Well, eating an ear of corn, if you're eating the super sweet corn, it's doing the same thing to your insides as eating a loaf of white bread. It's totally rocking your blood sugar level.
Wow.
So I think, I think the reason you've noticed a change with I think it's just coincidence that the women are having the problem, because I think that more and more people, and maybe women are more verbal. If they're having a problem, they're more likely like, why am I having this problem? I think we're just a little more aware of
Sure.
our bodies, of what's normal, what's not normal.
Yeah.
So, I may be overgeneralizing, but I think that might be the case. But I think that it's really important for people to understand that if you're having physical effects from something, it could be a rash, it could be a sore throat, a chronic sore throat. Chronic sore throat, chronic hoarseness can be acid reflux, not just allergies.
Good
So,
point.
you've got to, we all need to step up to the plate and understand and know our bodies and know when something is not right. And if you go to a doctor, your regular doctor, and they're like, oh, it could be this, it could be that, that's not good enough. You want help in figuring out what's going on.
Very well said, Elsie. And wow, this was a great video blog interview, Elsie. You gave us so much powerful information. I'm going to definitely be sending some clients your way very soon here. You'll probably be hearing from them because, as I mentioned, there's several that are in need of your help for sure. So that'll do it for today. But before we let you go, Elsie, how do people, if they're watching this, get a hold of you directly, please? Let's plug your best contact information before we let you go, please.
Great. Yes. You can message me on Facebook. My business Facebook page is Elsie Trawick Wellness. Also, my home number. Unfortunately, my office phone is on the bleak, so I am giving people my home number. Is 404-315-7665. We had a lightning strike here in the neighborhood, and
wow.
blew out all my phones.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Elsie. Well, I'm glad you're safe. We survived.
Yeah, thanks.
We're still having a lot of rain where I'm at over here. So I think that's the theme of this week is a lot of rain and some lightning and thunder. And as long as we're
looking
staying...
at the weather, I think you're right. So be safe. I see a pool in your background.
Yes, absolutely. Nobody's in there right now. They're probably going to not be in for the rest of this week. But Elsie, listen, thank you so much for your time. As always, really appreciate it. This was a fascinating episode here to start us off for the month of August. And let's definitely get another one here very shortly here soon. And again, thank you for everything you're doing and really appreciate all your help. This is just an excellent, awesome blog interview with you as always. You're the best.
Well, great. Stay out there.
You too, Elsie. Thank you. And as we fade to black, everyone, here comes her contact information right now. We'll see Elsie.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.